Many journalists trying to advance their career or innovation ideas are always looking for funding. Even though it is a writing task, crafting a proposal for funding can be a tough job for any journalist. Writing for funding is not creative. It's also not poetry. Ideas need to be presented clearly and precisely to the funders so they know what you want to do and also what to expect from you as a journalist, right? So, and this training is actually, that's what it aims to do, to help you provide all the necessary tips that you need to do so that you can, be able to apply for a grant and, and do it successfully. So before that, I just want to also explain that these tips will be based on my personal experience. These are the tips that have helped me to actually, execute my application or score funding. I need to explain that I've done 2 projects with the CCIJ the past 2 years. One of them is called Dying for a Drop, which was the first one that was funded by the CCIJ in June 2020. Basically, the two funding came in 1 year, 2020, June, and the other one is Grapes on Farm Workers in December 2020. So with the Dying Drop, what I did was I had to travel to a remote San community in Namibia, in the northern part of Namibia, where the community was experiencing a lack of water or basically no water at all. So it's a community that is that consists of 35 huts, and about what that investigation revealed was that more than 10 people or residents of that community have died trying to access water. The second one, which was obviously the grapes, this one we had to investigate the conditions of the farm workers that they had to endure from not having access to proper sanitation, basic water to do basic things at home, and also being paid actually small amounts of money, despite farm owners experiencing or pocketing loads of funds from international business countries. So we're just going to kickstart off it now. Step 1. Read the instruction carefully. This is one of the first steps that has actually helped me in my grant applications when I did 2 years, a year ago. What you need to do here is you need to do a thorough research on the issue that you want to address. You should also act like, it's your reporting, your first job for your reporting, and you are covering a story for your news organizations. Find similar projects or ideas that are similar to your project that you want to present. Look for the pitfalls, failures and successes of that kind of topic. Give more details when you are describing this idea, and also add more details on what you can deliver. Just do it better in that case, and try to get as much information as you can. See the kind of project that they are looking for, how long it should be, and so on. I'm just going to also present a bit of examples of Yaffa. Yes. So in my experience with the CCIJ, displaying on the screen is actually one of the second project that I did with the CCIJ, with the grapes crops bring in millions in Namibia, but farm workers live a harsh life. In this case, one of the requirements that that the project or the funders wanted was that I needed to present a written feature of about 2,500 words. I was also required that for every applicant, you must produce some visuals. As you can see, those pictures in the middle there. And then what I did is I also compiled some data. Now, this data, in terms of this experience of this story, I needed to execute or demonstrate the destinations where these grapes go to when they are exported from Namibia to other countries. And as you can see there, those are the top 10 countries where I had to present that. I have to find how much each one of those countries were paying for the grapes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Step 2.
Yeah.
On step 2, you need to do a thorough research. Carefully read the instructions on the applications that you are given, before you submit your proposal. Read the selections of the criteria, read the terms and conditions that are required for you to get a better sense of, the funders, what they are looking for. And because your idea will be worked on not only by one person, but perhaps by a committee that obviously consists of 5 or 10 people. Yeah, so try to demonstrate as much detail about, the issue that you want to present. Do not concentrate just on one idea. So much information can come up and you don't know what will actually, be that, to the fund officers. On this instance, Yaffa, yes.
Yeah.
In this instance, one of the things that I had to also present in terms of this one, I knew that the conditions of these farm workers in Ocean Care, they lived a harsh life. That's what I knew. This was an issue when I did my research. One of our local newspaper did report that they didn't have access to basic facilities, but the story did not have so much information as to what exactly are these basic. Is it lack of water? Is it that they didn't have shelter to sleep on? What is it exactly? So when I I took a trip to the north, to the border, the southern side of the country, which is just 4 kilometers between Namibia and the South African border. What I found out was more than I actually expected. It was more information I could actually gather, more than what I've presented in my grant applications. So what I found is that you drive there and you find all these, well taken care of grapes, but then you go again to a community where these farmers lives, and you find that they don't have access to the most, items, the basic needs. There's nothing at all. And then you ask yourself, well, why is it so? So they wake up early in the morning to go take care of crops, but then at the end of the day, you go back to a place that, you don't even want to be. So most of them, they were saying that they were doing it just for money so that they can take care of their families. They were saying that they live in those huts, but they experience there's no electricity, there's no access to anything at all. So try to dig as much information as you can in terms of research on that specific topic or idea that you want to present. Step 3. Explain what the problem is. Explain what the need is. What is it that exactly that you want to present? Yeah. What do you want to investigate? Who is involved? Yeah. What makes this idea of you, the project that you want to embark on, what makes it different? What is it that you can bring on board that has not been presented before? So that's one of the idea that you need, and it gets you to dig, just try to dig deeper. An example of this is, this is the first project, the Dying for the Drop. This is the first project I did with the CCIJ. One of the things that I actually had to explain in the application, the migrant application, was that there was no water at all. That's the only thing that I had. But reaching there, I found out that these people, they actually, didn't have much at all. There was no healthcare facilities, there was no network. Like you can't use your cell phone when you are there, you know. So those are the things that I you know, I had to, I didn't have and I had to explain. So as you can see in that picture, this is how basically the community make use of the water. They make use of, behind that lady that is seated, it's a big hole or a well. That's where they access water. So what they do is that they tie a huge string to a bucket, and then they throw it in underground there. And then that's how the bucket then can, you know, can get water, and then they pull it up so that they can make use of that water. Now they use this water for drinking. They use this water to, you know, to wash their clothes, and you know, and also for cooking. Step 4. Now step 4, you have to market the story that you want to do, and you also have to market yourself. In terms of yourself, you need to demonstrate or speak about, you know, previous projects that you have done. Speak about the work that you have done as a journalist. If, say, for example, you a person that has been in the media industry for, say, 5 years, and you have done some of the work that have made impact in your country, try to demonstrate that to fund officers. Yeah, demonstrate them to fund officers. Also speak about what, you know, the solution that came on the work that you have done in the past. So by marketing your story, you need to also demonstrate how you're going to, you know, determine all these, which angle are you going to take. There's so many angle that one can do. There's so many ideas. If we want to speak about corruption, if you want to speak about, you know, corruption has so many layers. Does it involve you know, senior government officials? Does it involve the president? What is it that is, you know, that thing that, you know, you need to rely on? So try to market as much and get as much information that you can get that you want to do. You know, if it involves, if it's nepotism, yeah, who is being hired? Is it a child or an offspring or a family or a member or a friend of those that are closest to power? So try to give as much information. That is one of the, actually the idea or the tip that helps funding officers to know that, you know, at the end of the day, this project that we are providing money for is actually something that is of impact, and it will make huge progress. Step 5. Show them that you can deliver. Yeah. In this case, what you can do is also speak about some of the things that here you need to actually project yourself. Yeah. As a journalist, there's so many things that we have so many traits, and, you know, we can make a lot of promises. I can do this, I can do that, you know, all that. But you need to be realistic about what you can provide. Yeah. And you also need to know what are the things that are going to be deliverable. What are those the things that are expected of you from funding officers, or is it just your own? And if it's so, how are you going? Actually, you need to draw up a timeline of how you're going to execute each and every item. So in this case, you must also include the metrics, you know, that will help your progress to deliver. Step 6. Step 6 is also one of the do's. It's to understand your resources. Yeah, be realistic about what you want and what you need. As a journalist, obviously, there are journalists that can execute everything at once. Yeah, you as a journalist are required to write. You are required to take pictures. You are required to, you know, do video interviews. Can you do all that? You need to be realistic about what you can do, what you can do and what you cannot do. So in this case, do you need a team of 3 people more? which is one can be a photographer, a videographer, or someone that can help you with the interview, or you can do everything. And if that's not the case, then who exactly do you need on your team? You know, and so you need to draw these up and make emphasis to the funding officer so that they know that whatever funds that they are going to provide to you includes everyone. Okay, so step 7, make a budget. Now, some funding offices and applications, they already have a budget for every idea or project that you want to present. It can ranges from 800 to 2,000. It can ranges, it gives, you know, but most of them that I have seen, and in my experience is they provide mostly between 1,500 US dollars to 5,000. So so whatever you do, you need to draw up a budget. In terms of the guidelines that they provide in the funding offices, they try to provide you also to explain that this is what we can provide, and they will ask you, what do you need for it? So you need to make a clear demonstration of who is involved in the budget. Do you have to pay for your photographer? Do you have to travel? And if you have to travel, how far do you have to go? And are you going to look for accommodation? How much is it going to be? So you need to underline every little thing that you are going to do. Explain precisely on the budgets, how much is what is going to cost, and do not lie. You know, just make sure that your budget is presented accordingly, and do not, you know, make up figures that makes no sense, because in most of the times they like asking for invoices as soon as you are done with your project, so that they can also equate the money that they have provided to you. Yeah, so try to be precise, double check your maths, make sure that everything is in accordance. And most of the project, they normally also give you a fee of your own. So don't make up any but with the advice of saying that don't make up figures, what I'm actually mean is that do not try to put up figures so that you can benefit from this, because they give you a fee for your own use. All right. Okay, so one of the other tips that you also need to consider when you are applying for your grant applications to be successful, do not be afraid to try. Yeah. One of the worst fear that as individuals we have is the fear of failure. And as a journalist, we are always having this doubt that, okay, maybe I'm going to fail, maybe I will not be able to execute my project properly, maybe I've made a mistake. Do not panic, just do it and just apply. Give it your best shot as much as you can. Read up online. There's so many information with the world of technology. There's so many information that you can read up on assistance, so that you can just, you know, try to see how you can enhance your applications. So one of the things is just don't be afraid at all. Just give it your shot, apply, and just do it. Okay, the next step is for you not to forget your audience. Keep them in mind when you're applying. Yeah, everything that they need to know. Just give everything that they need to know. I'm from Namibia. It's a tiny Southern African country, and most of the people do not even know maybe where Namibia is, unless really it comes up with something that is huge, like, you know, like the recent reparation that Germany has to pay to my country. So when it comes like that, then you know Namibia is out there and so on. But if you are from a tiny country like me, even with the big, you know, the big cities, just try to demonstrate everything that they need to know. If you are going, like, I had to go to the northern part of the country, they need to know the name, they need to know how hot it is, what is, you know, the rainfall statistics. Clearly demonstrate to the funding officer everything that they need to know. Just be with them, keep them in your mind, their perspective, and try to give them as much information, because they don't know everything. So you are there, and you have to actually provide information to them, and just try to make it clear to them that this is what you have to do. The other step is for you not to quit. In this case, normally what happens is that, when you receive an answer, a negative response, whether you have this feeling that you want to give up, we have to learn from our mistakes. Everything that we do in life requires that first step. And if you can't do it, then you can, if you can't do it, then you will not know whether you have made a mistake or not. So even if you don't make it, you will learn something. They always provide a feedback that, don't be shy. Email them, find out why your applications was not successful. Was it a mistake that you have done along the way? Was it something that you have omitted? What is it that you have done? Then by them responding to you in that manner, you will know how to go further. You know what to include next time. You know what mistakes you have to avoid next time. Thank you so much.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Sonja. This is very helpful. And I just want to flag to everyone that we actually have a PDF one sheet that Kira from our team is going to post in the chat, which captures all of these tips, just in case you were trying to take notes on it. We have a neat one sheet that captures it. But Sonja, I would like to ask you a little bit about your own process here, because we're talking about your successes, the 2 CCIJ grants you got. But how many grants have you applied to? And how long did it take before you got your first one funded?
That's a very, very good question, Yaffa. I've applied for a grant before. I think it's two of them that were unsuccessful. Yeah. In the year 2018, that's when I started off with my freelancing career, because I used to be a full-time journalist. And so I had to apply for this grant because I needed an international exposure. And one of the mistakes what I did, I realized, was that, I did not follow instruction. Yeah, that's one of the mistakes that I did. And the other one, the second one that that was unsuccessful was that I applied very late. I think it's on the same day that the closing of the submissions. It says, you have to submit at 3 o'clock, right? And that's the time that I actually submitted. So my applications then was rejected on that basis. So those are the things that we all need to avoid. Try to avoid by all means. If the closing date is on the 30th of that month, try to start your application even on the 1st of that month, and by the 15th, then you go through and try to tailor it to their liking, and so yeah.
I would say then we should add one tip. Don't wait till the last minute to write your grant application, because inevitably it will be lacking. Don't procrastinate. Maybe that's our last don't. So tell me the value in doing it. I think for a lot of people, it is a laborious process. It can take hours or days to pull together, and still there's a small chance they get it. But what is the value of when you get it, both in terms of what it has meant to your own investigative work, but also what it's meant to your own professional career, both within Namibia and beyond?
Okay, before the CCIJ, my name was totally unknown, beyond Namibia. One of the things I have done exceptionally well in my country, because I have been a political journalist, and I write on mismanagement of public funds and corruption, but my name was totally unknown on the international map. But joining the CCIJ, which started in such an awkward I think it was by mistake, basically, because I don't like telling this story, but Jeff is here and he knows what happened. So it was just over a breakfast in a hotel in South Africa, where we attended the African Investigative Conference in October 2019. So it was just by mistake. We actually happened to sit at the same table. So we were eating, and then Jeff was talking with these other colleagues from Nigeria and Mali. Was talking about the CCIJ, that he's the executive, director, and that he's having a bunch of journalists from different countries, and they help out on specific projects. And I was like, what is that? So I was like, no, I'm interested. I came here to network, so I want to give it my shot. So I told him, I showed him my interest. I told him that I'm interested and I wanted to be part of the team. So that's when he asked me to actually write up a proposal. So that's what happened. But what I can say, Yaffa, to that question in brief is that the CCIJ has solidified my career beyond where I could actually, because when I Google my name now, I know it's
all
not
good
something.
Journalists do.
Yes, when I Google my name now, it's like everything pops up, and the CCIJ, even on Twitter now, so I just feel so, I'm really happy with how things turned out in the past 2 years. And it's all thanks because of the CCIJ. So my name has really gone out there, and my work is actually being, displayed on the international colleagues are also reaching out now. When they look, I think when they look at, they are looking for someone in Namibia who can assist them. So they always do. I receive a lot of emails from international journalists that want to assist. I just received, I think it was 2 days ago, I received an email from a Swiss journalist who is coming to Namibia, is popping by Botswana first to come before he comes to Namibia, but wants to my assistance with this community in Namibia that or the descendants and victims of by the Germans. So it's really just something, you have to try it out, especially for African journalists. Our age to try out, applying for these grants, because it will change your career forever.
Yeah, so I'm going to move now because I want to make sure that we get to some of the questions from folks who are on the training today, and I'll field some of them. And Sonja, I'm happy to let you field some of them as well. But a theme that we've seen in the questions, some people are asking, if you're pandering to the donor's needs in a funding application, does that make the story biased? So I will say, being on the decision-making end of CCIJ grants so many times, we do not frame our grants with any partisan or political agenda. It is, for example, this is a grant that is supposed to be a water investigation, whether it's corruption by the government or it's a corporation, as an example, that's polluting some body of water. We want to make sure that you are addressing the theme. So it shouldn't bias your reporting. And if you see a grant application that has like a clear partisan bent, I often caution it. As journalists, we're supposed to try at least to maintain some degree of objectivity and nonpartisanship in the work that we do. So I would question that application. And I know certainly the ones that I decide and outside organizations that I also decide for, there isn't that element of it. So pandering to the donor's needs, I would actually reframe as reading those guidelines carefully and actually giving us what we want. I mean, CCIJ, Sonja mentioned this at the top, we require a written, visual, and data component. If you submit an application that is lacking one or two of those, that's a strike against you. You're not pandering to us by giving us all three. You're actually just meeting the requirements of the application. So I understand it can sometimes be a tough line, but most foundations are these nonpartisan ones that are more thematic rather than political. And so that should not happen in a perfect world. One of the other questions is, how do you fairly handle the needs of the donor and the audience in terms of story production? And so, I can start, and Sonja, let me know if you have any other thoughts. In terms of story production, most grants, at least the ones that we have certain budgets in mind of how much money we are willing to put out. And we also try to take into account the countries where we are funding them. $2,000 in the United States does not go nearly as far as $2,000 in Namibia can go. And so the hope is that the funding that you do receive it will both meet our needs in terms of what we are looking to get out of it, but also the needs and the interests of the audience, and allow you to kind of balance that. I don't know, Sonja, have you ever struggled to kind of meet the needs of the donor and the audience while trying to pull together all the components for your grant?
No, that's a good question, actually, Yaffa. In my experience, $2,000, I think the projects that I have done with the CCIJ, both of them, they were $2,500, and that equates to about 24,000 in Namibian dollars, and that's really a lot of money. That is someone's salary in my country. So I was able to actually use fuel cost, book an accommodation, pay for a photographer, the traveling and back, and actually even I was able also to buy a few things, food and, all those kind of things. Everything was covered. And I think I even had a small money, money left for me to use on my own. So it's really a lot of money in Namibia. And I can also speak for South Africa, because our currencies are the same. I don't know about other African countries, but I can speak of Namibia and South Africa because they are linked.
No, that's helpful. So this is a good logistical question, and I've actually gotten this one a lot. Some grant applications require that the applicant has existing material or footage from the project they're seeking to work on already. How do you deal with that, especially when you haven't been given any money to gather that material or footage yet, right? Are you supposed to cover expenses personally, then ask for funding? So what I usually will say to applicants when they ask this question, because this is a great one, is yes, we want to see that you've done some reporting and thinking about the project, but it doesn't usually have to be, and again, I'm speaking more to CCIJ grants. We're not expecting to see, raw footage from interviews. A lot of these things, frankly, can be done on WhatsApp or Signal or by phone. We want to see that you've thought through whatever the issue you're seeking to cover is, that you've reached out to some of the key players, right? In the case of Sonja, for Dying for a Drop, you have this village with 35 huts. Have you spoken to any of the people who live in those 35 huts? If you see that there is a desalination plant nearby, have you tried to speak to the people who are nearby who might be able to address the problem? Have you spoken to local government officials who in theory are responsible for addressing the problem? So a lot of this, I think, again, WhatsApp, Signal, phone, email, just that you've done some pre-interviews. I mean, even in my own reporting day to day, I do lots of pre-interviews, and it generally is very low cost to do that, but it's to show that you've actually thought through the complexity of the project. And obviously, once you ideally get funding, you can often discover things are even more complex on the ground. But we get a lot of applicants where it's like someone has an idea, but has done very little research into what other people have already done on that idea, the many layers that are involved in it. So I think just demonstrating that kind of surface knowledge and using whatever cheap or free technological means we have is best. But Sonja, I don't know if you've had that experience either.
I did. But yeah, exactly what you're saying. The other thing also that I wanted just to add on that is that you by getting the grant, yeah, it doesn't mean that also because I know in my country, if I know I have receive some sort of assistance, I will try to execute that project to the best of my ability. Sometimes we need the funding, but sometimes we can also, do halfway and trying to compromise. So if I know that 2,500 is not enough, like, on countries where their currencies are really struggling and so on, and it's not worth a lot of money, I'll try to sacrifice and try to execute that project, because in a nutshell, the end result is what can actually, solidify your career in your projects. And when your project is as good as you have done it, then it means it will lead to even greater things. Like in my experience, the two projects that I done with the CCIJ are the ones that actually led to me to get those awards that I won in my country. And it was not just an effort solely done by me, but I think, remember Yaffa, I think you were also involved in the editing process and so on. And it was a stressful time. We had to go forth, back and forth, trying to, you guys were asking a lot of questions. No, Sonja, you have omitted these. What is it that, So, and I think at one point, me and my editor, Ray, we even clashed. I don't know what he said. And then I was like, why are you saying that? So they said, no, then the next day he was saying that, no, I was just emotional. So there's a lot of challenges that can go on. It's not just about all the nice things, getting the money, go and do the project and come back. It requires a lot of, and they give you about 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks or even a month, but you need to execute at the time at the time of giving you the money. I think my period was about, I think I was given about 3 weeks to execute the project altogether. So it's greater than that.
Yeah, I just want to run through a couple more of these questions because wonderfully people have so many. I'll start with this one. Is it good to ask for feedback in case your grant application did not make it? I always think it's worth asking. I know at CCIJ, whenever we are asked, we do our best to provide, even 1 or 2 paragraphs of explanation. And to Sonja's point, sometimes it's just a super competitive field and we had to make some tough decisions. Sometimes it's, hey, we asked for these visual and data components, was absent, or sometimes it was you didn't do enough research, up front, we weren't sure the viability of the idea. But I think it's always worth asking, because to Sonja's last tip, you have to learn from your mistakes. And the best way to do that is to really get feedback from the decision makers in that. Just running through a couple more questions. I'm not sure if someone's not on mute that perhaps should be. If you have more than one idea, should you pitch a story project that would be a good fit for the funder? Or, I'm not sure. Yes, okay, thank you. If you have more than one idea, should you pitch a story project that would be a good fit for the funder, or should you pitch a project you're passionate about? Go ahead, Sonja, what would you say to that?
It's always best to actually pitch more than one idea. I remember, I think with my first idea with the CCIJ, I presented about, I think, 4 ideas. Jeff, no? Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was more than 4. I think it was more than 3 ideas. And they picked one, which they thought that, okay, I think we are going for this. This is better. Give us more information on this. So when they give you, instead, you understand. And Yaffa, in this case, every journalist, we make mistakes. And I think I was actually even saved. That was my saving grace with my first funding, because I presented about 3 ideas of the water crisis in Namibia. And because then I think the third one or so, which was the last on the list, was the one that they were interested in. And then they asked for more information, that we are interested in this one, and can you rewrite this or based on this specific idea? So then I had to do that, and then they approved it. So you can see that they didn't, instead of giving you a negative or turning you down, they give you kind of a second chance, because one of your idea intrigued them.
Yeah, and I will say we have done this on our end, where we get an idea that we think has potential, but there's some stuff that we think is missing, and we will go back to people and say, can you flesh elements of this out, because we're interested but we're not yet ready to commit. So sometimes I think it is worth listing more than one and having the expectation that we will come back to you with further questions. Not all funders may feel that way, by the way, but that has been our own experience. Another question: what advice do you have for a journalist pitching a story to a funder they suspect may have a bias? So this actually comes back to that initial question of donor biases. I myself, as a journalist, in addition to judging some of these grant applications at CCIJ, am always suspect of donors who I haven't vetted myself. And most foundations, like I said, especially, and a lot depends on where they're incorporated in the United States, in Europe, in Africa, what the rules may be. But I'm always weary getting involved with any foundation or funder that may have potentially problematic ties. The example given here, and Sonja, you may have thoughts, is say, for example, a Namibian journalist applying to a Chinese group for funding to report illegal coal mining that Chinese nationals are involved in. I personally would be skeptical of applying to a Chinese group for a story that would expose something negative about China. My own experience reporting on Xi Jinping the last few years, the Chinese don't take well to negative press. But I also think there are so many funders out there that don't have those connections that it really shouldn't be your first stop when you're looking for funding for a project. In fact, a story like that might be great for CCIJ and not for the Chinese, group.
I think in addition to that, I think avoid it at all costs. It won't work.
Yeah.
It won't work. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, I realize we are at time. So a couple of final things. Kira has posted the one sheet with all of the tips from today. And I know that I'm asked, yes, this has been recorded, and I think we'd be fine to share our slides. So happy to touch base afterwards on that. A few housekeeping things. Kira also posted a link to a short evaluation of today's session. We are constantly working to make these sessions better and more informative for everyone in attendance. So please, if you have 2 minutes to fill it out, it's just a couple of questions, we'd really appreciate it. I also want to flag that we have another free training coming up on September 2nd. It's the practical guide to fundraising for nonprofits and journalists, which I think kind of picks up where this session ends. It's hosted by CCIJ Development Director Juliana Thornton with Simona Mashigoane and Kutsuti Kane. More information to follow, but if you are interested to fundraising for nonprofits or journalists, September 2nd, mark it on your calendar. And with that, I want to thank Sonja so much for pulling this all together and for being in conversation today. And thank you to our interns who also made this possible. This has been really wonderful and informative. And again, if folks have questions, obviously reach out to CCIJ. The one sheet has contact information in addition to our website, and Sonja and I are happy to field any follow-up questions you may have. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Yaffa, for that. And thank you for everyone for attending our training session. I hope that this does not end there, and this won't be the first one. So we continue to do more of the this training session, so we can also, interact, network with one another. For those that who need my email address, Kira can give it. Yeah, let's learn from one another. Thank you so much, Jeff, for, bringing up this idea. And Yaffa, I don't know how to thank you, Kira, all the work that you have done today and in the past week. Thank you so much for helping execute everything. It's teamwork, and I like this so much.
Thank you, Sonja and Yaffa and everybody else, Esther and Jillian and Kira and Willa, who have all worked to make the event possible. And I just wanted to mention that we do welcome people joining CCIJ and becoming members of our community. Sonja is an important member of our community. Carolyn's here from our community. Lasiba's here in our community. Emmanuel's here in our community. We have Jennifer Changwanda, Liesel. So we have many people. Miriam's a new member. Portia. So we really welcome you. And so there's a link that I just put in. If you would like to become a member, we send out a weekly update and so on. And we do have a sliding scale. We know that finances can be tight, so we don't want anybody to not join our community if money is an issue. But just a terrific session. Please do fill out the evaluation. Thank you, Sonja. Thank you, Yaffa. And please feel free to be in touch. And thank you, Esther, for the reminder to stop recording after the session ends. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. See you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. See you. Thank you. Thank you, Bernard. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, Jeff.
Yes. Hello, Lasiba. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for the mouthful presentation from our members.
No, thank you, Lasiba, and you're such a faithful attendee. I know it's time for a session when I see you here.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was hoping maybe we should do another one in future very soon, and also to do some of the examples on previous applications that won the grant. Don't you think?
Excellent. So Yaffa, thoughts on that? Maybe sharing some of the previously successful grants? They're really good suggestions.
Yeah, no, that's a great suggestion. And, you know, part of why we started with Sonja is that she has received 2 from us. And so she's someone who I think has done a great job at it. But I would be happy to work with some of the other journalists who we've funded in Lesotho and Nigeria, probably most recently, and what their applications really got right, why they resonated with us so well. So I think that's a great suggestion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So anybody else, final questions before I sign off, or thoughts or concerns or anything? Okay, well, this is a wonderful record-setting session for us. So thank you to everybody who organized, and thank you so much for attending. I'm just going to end it now. Okay, thank you.